Fall is here again, and with it comes the usual heralds of the season. Colder temperatures, the Spirit Halloween stores open, and of course, the return of General Mills' monster cereals to grocery store shelves. And this year, 2023, has also brought with it the first new monster cereal flavor and mascot since Fruity Yummy Mummy debuted in 1988. Carmela Creeper is a new caramel apple flavored cereal, with the character herself being a zombie DJ and Frankenberry's long-lost cousin. And with the debut of a new character comes the usual cry from the internet of, "Why isn't there a creature from the Black Lagoon cereal?" Well, before we tackle that question, as well as a truly stupid side effect of it that I recently discovered, let's delve into a little allegedly nutritional history. The monster cereals originally debuted in 1971 with two flavors, Count Chocula and Frankenberry. Among their other pop culture credentials, both were the first chocolate and strawberry flavored cereals to be put on the market, and they were hits almost immediately. Boo Berry, a blueberry flavored cereal, soon followed in 1972 and then expanded nationally in 1973. The success of the cereals was helped by a creative advertising campaign which featured the monsters constantly bickering with each other about whose cereal was the best, and usually being terrified of something fairly innocuous as well. In 1974, a fourth cereal was added to the lineup, Fruit Brute, featuring a werewolf mascot. This was a generic fruit-flavored cereal with lime-flavored marshmallows. Unlike the other three, however, Fruit Brute had a relatively short shelf life, being discontinued in 1982. 6 years later, in 1988, Fruity Yummy Mummy hit stores, but it lasted even less time than Fruit Brute, being discontinued in 1992. The original trio of cereals lasted year-round until 2009, when it was apparently decided to make the entire brand seasonal only, turning up only at Halloween from 2010 to the present. For the first few years, only Count Chocula, Frankenberry, and Boo Berry came back each year, but 2013 saw the return of both Fruit Brute, now respelled as F-R-U-T-E-B-R-U-T-E, and Fruity Yummy Mummy, although the flavors of both had been changed. Fruit Brute was now a cherry-flavored cereal, while Fruity Yummy Mummy was orange cream-flavored. It was the first time all 5 cereals were available at the same time. In 2021, to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the cereals, Fruit Brute and Fruity Yummy Mummy returned along with a brand new mixed berry flavor cereal featuring pieces from all the brands called Monster Mash. And for the record, the box clearly says it was a berry-flavored cereal, so no, there were no chocolate-flavored pieces in it. And as mentioned, 2023 sees the arrival of Carmela Creeper and the return of Monster Mash, now branded as Monster Mash Remix. Now, obviously, when the brand started with just Count Chocula and Frankenberry, the characters were modeled on the Universal Monsters versions of Count Dracula and the Frankenstein monster, as portrayed by Bela Lugosi and Boris Karloff. The character profiles on the official Monster Cereals website say as much. So, a creature from the Black Lagoon cereal seems like a no-brainer. Why not capitalize on that? Well, in all likelihood, it may just be that doing so would be more of a hassle than General Mills thinks it's worth. These days, IP is everything to corporations, and while in one memorable year General Mills did partner with Universal to have their monster mascots appear on boxes and in commercials with Universal's classic versions of the characters, it's unlikely that kind of collaboration is going to happen again, since every company these days is fiercely protective of their brands. And when it comes to the creature from the Black Lagoon, there's another issue at play here: copyright. Now, before we get into this, let me state up front that I am not a lawyer, and I am going to be condensing a lot of information about copyright law here, sticking primarily to the elements that pertain to my theory about this whole thing. You see, the characters of Count Dracula and the Frankenstein monster are in the public domain, both originally appearing in novels published in 1897 and 1818, respectively, so anybody can use those characters for their own ends, within reason. So by the time Count Chocula and Frankenberry hit the shelves, technically, General Mills was already in the clear to use those characters as the basis for their mascots. And while the Universal movie versions, both from 1931, are still under copyright until 2027, and General Mills admits Chocula and Frankenberry were inspired by them, one look at either the commercials or boxes from that one-time crossover promotion with Universal will show you that both characters are substantially different in design from the Universal versions of Dracula and Frankenstein. Add to that the pun names based on cereal flavors, and you have a solid case for parody, if not a case that these are completely different characters altogether. There is no way that anybody is going to mistake Count Chocula for Count Dracula. And as far as the other existing mascots go, well, if you pay attention, you can see that they're all based on generic monster archetypes rather than a specific named monster. You can't really copyright the concept of a ghost or a zombie in the case of Booberry and Carmela Creeper. Mummies actually exist in the real world, so that covers Fruity Yummy Mummy. And while Fruit Brute is a werewolf, Universal doesn't own that concept. There's a reason why their werewolf series is specifically referred to as the Wolfman. That's a name you can copyright, as opposed to the term werewolf, which is just as generic as ghost or zombie. Okay, so if Count Chocula and Frankenberry can get away with being parodies of the Universal versions of Dracula and Frankenstein, then they could do the same with the creature from the Black Lagoon, right? Well, yes, they probably could. It's happened before. Plenty of cartoons over the years have had characters that were clearly inspired by it. Hell, even the movie The Monster Squad managed to get away with it by not using the name Creature from the Black Lagoon, or even the character's official name of Gillman in dialogue, and making its version look substantially different from the Universal version. It may just be that General Mills thinks doing so would probably be more trouble than it's worth. Now, I have zero evidence that this is the case, but thinking it through from their standpoint, there's a couple of factors involved that could cause them to decide against using the creature as the basis for another mascot. First off, unlike the other mascot monsters, the creature from the Black Lagoon is a wholly original creation that Universal owns outright. Everything from the lore to the look isn't based on a novel or existing mythology. It was all made up just for that movie and its subsequent sequels. Additionally, since the movie was released in 1954 and all the aspects of it will remain under copyright until 2050 at the earliest, which means any cereal mascot would, much like Count Chocula and Frankenberry, require substantial redesign to make it distinct enough from Universal's monster to qualify as parody, and also be able to be placed under copyright and trademark to General Mills. But given the track record that any monster cereal outside of the original trio has had so far, the jury's still out on Carmela Creeper at time of production, going to all that effort may be an investment of time and money that General Mills just doesn't think is worth it. Another issue may be the recognition factor. Sure, plenty of people know the title, The Creature from the Black Lagoon, but in 2023, outside of classic movie and horror fans, are most average people even aware of what the creature is? Maybe, but Gillman hasn't exactly had the biggest pop cultural impact on the world at large. Hell, I'd argue the only reason people even know the movie now is because Universal decided to lump all their classic movie monsters together under the Universal Monsters branding in the 90s and pushed hard to get it out there. Which, admittedly, does mean Gillman has one of the best pinball machines ever made, so, there's that. And finally, let's be honest, would you or your kids, if you have them, actually eat a cereal whose mascot is a giant fish monster? Doesn't exactly sound appealing no matter what the actual flavor of the cereal is. The optics just aren't good. Incidentally, the first 2 points also apply to the Bride of Frankenstein, who also gets demands for her own cereal every so often. The character and her appearance are all Universal creations. While the monster demands Victor Frankenstein make him a bride in the original novel, she isn't actually created in that story. But fans, as have been frequently observed, are irrational, demanding beasts at times, and while there has been fan art of potential creature-based monster cereals made for years, I encountered a truly idiotic example of fan wankery while doing research for this video. Somebody is trying to Mandela effect the internet into believing that there was, at one point, a creature-inspired monster cereal. Now, any researcher worth their salt will admit that the nature of Wikipedia means that it shouldn't be considered a reliable source for serious research. But if all you need is basic information on a topic and at least a starting point of where to look online for recognized sources, it can be useful in that regard. And like a lot of people, that's where I started for basic info on the history of the monster cereals. And while I had looked up the info a few days prior to starting work on this video, when I went back to the monster cereal page on Wikipedia, I found the following had been added. The monster cereals are a line of breakfast cereals produced by General Mills Corporation in North America. The line was introduced in 1971 and has at various times included 6 brands, each featuring a cartoon version of a classic movie monster. Count Chocula, Frankenberry, and Booberry, all produced seasonally from September 1st to October 31st, as well as Fruit Brute, Crispy Creature Crunch, and Fruity Yummy Mummy, all 3 discontinued except for limited productions, with a 7th character, Carmela Creeper, introduced in 2023. Hang on a second. I'm in my late 40s. I've been around for almost as long as the cereals themselves and have eaten more than my fair share, and I know for a fact that I have never seen any cereal called Crispy Creature Crunch. Let's look a little further, shall we? Crispy Creature Crunch was test marketed only in the northeastern United States from 1976 to 1978 and sold in limited locations. It was a vanilla-flavored cereal which featured a cartoon monster resembling the creature from the Black Lagoon, also known as Gillman. Regional test market, huh? Okay, let's look at the editing history. So, it looks like this information was added by a user called Bardhawk on September 2nd, 2023. He says he attached a picture for proof. Okay, let's scroll down here and, ooh, wow, you couldn't even be bothered to format it correctly, huh, pal? Let's go back to the history. Another user, Nitsy, undid Bardhawk's edit, noting that there's no evidence of Crispy Creature Crunch on General Mills' website, and they want a citation. And yeah, Nitsy's correct. There's no mention of the cereal ever existing, and consider they include the original versions of both Fruit Brute and Fruity Yummy Mummy, that seems like Bardhawk's making things up. And they're apparently committed to the bit, because they went back and put everything back again and added the image of the alleged box to the article on September 3rd. Let's look a little closer at this image, shall we? Okay, first off, this isn't an image of a cereal box. The layout is awful, and look over here at the left-hand edge. You see that? That's rounded off in a way that cereal boxes aren't. In fact, what this looks like is a rectangular magnet. And there's two very big problems with this so-called box that fly in the face of the history of the cereals. First off is the idea that the cereal turns the milk green. Gimmicks like that were not in widespread use in kids' cereals at that time, and especially relevant is the infamous Frankenberry stool incident in 1972, where the indigestible red food coloring used in Frankenberry wound up turning kids' poop pink, leading some parents to be concerned that their kids had internal bleeding. This incident got so much media attention that not only did General Mills reformulate all three cereals, Stephen King used it as the inspiration of a subplot in his novel Cujo. And after that kind of backlash, it's highly unlikely the company would draw attention to any food coloring that discolored anything for the rest of the 70s. The other problem with this is an easy one to spot for anyone old enough to remember the various changes the cereals went through, or anyone who bothers to Google older box designs. Because the cereal on this so-called box did not exist in this form until 1985. All the Monster cereals from 1971 to 1983 were, with the exception of the color and flavor, identical. The cereal pieces were round with a cross in the center, and the marshmallows were just colored mini marshmallows in the traditional cylinder shape. The bigger marshmallows, shaped like the characters' heads, weren't introduced until 1983, with the bat-shaped marshmallows coming in 1989. And the cereal pieces didn't become ghost-shaped until 1985, which they remain to this day. So yeah, sorry Bardhawk, but if this is your proof that Crispy Creature Crunch existed, you've either been had, or you suck at internet hoaxes, because there's no way this cereal in this form existed from 1976 to 1978, limited regional test run or not. In fact, I'm pretty sure I've seen this image before. Yep, reverse image search shows the truth. The only place this image appears is on various Etsy and eBay listings. Plus, Google Lens is pointing out what looks like Photoshop marks making alterations to an existing box. Now, in the interest of due diligence, I have reached out to General Mills to confirm that Crispy Creature Crunch never existed, but as of production, I've not received a reply. But I really don't think that matters, because it's quite clear that this is the case of either an overzealous fan not doing their homework, or someone trying to pull a not very well thought out prank on the internet at large. This is like somebody pulling Trent Troop's Bran Helsing parody box and trying to convince everyone that General Mills was putting out their own version of Cracklin' Oat Bran. Or maybe it's just somebody bitter that the latest Monster cereal mascot is a girl. God knows that's been a problem of late. Hello! Editing Aaron here, from the future. Ooh. Anyway, so all this information about the bogus bullshit on the Monster Cereals Wikipedia entry was valid at the time I wrote and recorded this script, but it seems that while I've been editing, Nitsy struck again and has in fact smacked Bardhawk down. And a couple of other people who've tried to get the Crispy Creature Crunch information back on the Wikipedia page. So, as of the point that I'm recording this, as I'm about to wrap up finishing this video, which should go up the same day, at least to Patreon members and out to others the next day, if you go to the Wikipedia page now, as of September 6th, 2023 at 12:03 p.m. Mountain Time, none of that information is there. But if you look in the editing history, you'll be able to bring up older versions and see all this stupidity for yourselves. Yeah, Nitsy ain't having it. Nitsy knows the truth. Nitsy is not gonna have any bogus information about General Mills' Monster cereals on Wikipedia. By God! Let's sum everything up, shall we? But it also shows that there are people out there who really like the idea of a creature-themed monster cereal. And who knows, even if it doesn't exist now, it could exist in the future, assuming somebody in General Mills thinks it's worth making the effort. But now that I think of it, there is one other movie monster that's in the public domain and could make a pretty cool mascot, if General Mills doesn't want to make one based on the creature from the Black Lagoon.